Get ready for Hosts at Home. On today's show, a country music legend. Wait, this sounds like announcer copy for another show. Grand Ole Opry star, Country Music Hall of Famer, Songwriters Hall of Famer. Oh, of course! The only man to do all of this and host game shows. Bill Anderson joins us. And now, here's your host, direct from Nashville, Tennessee, Adam Wurtzel.
Thank you, Richard Malmus. Hello again, everybody. I'm Adam Wurtzel. Welcome to Hosts at Home. You know by now the show where we chat with your favorite hosts, past and present. And folks, I am particularly excited about this episode because I've interviewed this man countless times here in Nashville. I consider him a friend. And today, I am not chatting to country music legend Bill Anderson. I am chatting to host extraordinaire Bill Anderson. Bill, nice to see you.
Well, let's see, Adam. First, I hope I didn't overdress.
I think you look fantastic.
Let's see, I've got to put on my host. Hi there, welcome to our show. We're going to have a great time. Yeah.
You've still got that amazing voice, Bill. We're going to talk about a whole lot of things. I always like to end with the question, what are you up to nowadays? But for you, I kind of want to start with that question because you have not let this very, very difficult time in our world stop you from working. You have a new album out and you're truly proving that it's a good day to have a good day. Tell us about that.
Well, I'm doing something I've never done in all of my life. I mean, since I was 15 years old, I have never had a routine in my life. But these days, you know, with the pandemic and all, first thing I do is I get up every morning and I check the obituaries. And if my name's not in there, then I make coffee. And then it's so funny. I go to bed every night at the same time. I get up every morning at the same time. Listen, and I'm in the same town. You know, I've never stayed in the same town for a year until now because I've always just kind of been a road dog, you know. But now it's Nashville and home and it's really not all that bad, to be honest with you. I'm just sorry it's under these conditions.
I always ask the question on this show, where is home for you? But everybody knows home for you is in Nashville. And for the first time on this show, we are in the same town. We both live in Music City. You touched on always being on the road. Have you had to get used to sleeping in a bed that's not moving all the time?
Yeah, I tell people I'm going to hire somebody to come in and shake my bed and blow diesel fumes around the bedroom so I'll feel at home. Go down to the local truck stop and eat breakfast, you know, so I'll feel like things are normal.
Nothing says good breakfast like a MAPCO or a Twice Daily. That's what I always say. Let's talk about the world of hosting. As you know, I'm a huge fan of game shows, as is lots of people that are watching Hosts at Home. But you hosted something way before The Better Sex, way before Fandango, called The Bill Anderson Show, which I think is really interesting because you'd assume that it would tape in Nashville, but you actually taped this show in Canada. Is that correct?
Well, we had 3 different locations. I started that show in 1965, and we started taping in Charlotte, North Carolina, of all places. At that time, there were very few places in Nashville, just the local TV stations where you could do something like that. And they were pretty full. They had the Porter Wagner show. They were doing the Flatt and Scruggs and Ernest Tubb and these different shows. So there was really no room to get into a studio in Nashville. So we went to a place called Jefferson Productions in Charlotte, North Carolina. And then we went to CKLW in Windsor, Ontario, Canada. And the reason for that was that they told us if we would tape in Canada, that not only could we keep all the markets that we were syndicated in the United States, but it would open up the Canadian markets because we would be qualified as Canadian content. And so we went to CKLW for a couple of years, and they were a little behind up there. Now, you're talking the late 60s, and it's hard to remember, but not everybody had color television in the late 60s. And in Canada, they were lagging a little behind. So in order to stay competitive, we had to come back to Nashville where we could tape in color. And by that time, there were some facilities here where we could do our show. But I did that show for 9 years. And And I guess that was the first thing, Nate was a host.
How do you morph into that career? How do you go from country star to TV host and do both simultaneously?
Well, on the Bill Anderson show, of course, I was hosting, but I was also singing and performing, doing the country music thing. When I started doing some of the other things, game shows and soap operas and various things that I got involved in, I don't really know how I made that transition. I just did. I've always kind of liked the hosting thing. My background was in radio. Before I came to Nashville, I did about 4 years of local radio down in Georgia. And I think once you got a little bit of that radio background, you learn timing, you learn, various things about hosting. And it's always just sort of come natural to me and easy for me. And it's something I enjoyed.
I want to talk about a man who I consider probably the holy grail of game shows. And I'm so jealous that you got to know him and work with him. And that would be Mark Goodson. How did the relationship with Mark come about?
My manager at the time was a man named Bobby Brenner from New York. And Bobby knew Mark Goodson and a lot of the people that worked with and for and around Mark Goodson. And I met Mark Goodson through Bobby Brenner and some of his friends. It was truly, you're totally right. He was the epitome. And I felt so fortunate. Here I was doing my very first game show and getting to work with the king of game show producers. I mean, I remember as a kid, even in radio, and this show was produced by Mark Goodson and Bill Todman.
This has been a Mark Goodson, Bill Todman production. A Mark Goodson, Bill Todman production. A Mark Goodson, Bill Todman production.
A Mark Goodson, Bill Todman production. And to think that I was actually there working with Mark Goodson, I felt so blessed and so fortunate, and I just tried to soak it all up like a sponge.
I remember you telling me this story years ago, and I would love for you to sort of retell it for the folks watching at home, of you at this just incredible Christmas party with all of these hosts around you and them kind of welcoming you in. Can you kind of dig a little deeper into that?
Yeah, I never moved to California. I stayed in Nashville and just I wore Continental Airlines out flying out to the West Coast. But I got invited the first Christmas, I guess, when I was hosting the Better Sex on the ABC, and I got invited to Mark Goodson Christmas party. And I mean, everybody was there. Bob Barker and Ralph Edwards was there, whom I just totally idolized from my childhood days. This Is Your Life and Truth or Consequences and things like that. But just kind of being there in that game show world, I was kind of like a kid in the candy store. Just golly, there was so-and-so and all these different people that I had watched on TV and known vicariously all these years. And everybody was very nice to me. I was well, there was one guy that wasn't real nice, but we won't call his name. But everybody else was very nice.
I hope it wasn't my buddy Bob Eubanks.
Oh no, I love Bob Eubanks. Bob's one of us. He's in the game show, and he was in the country music world with Merle Haggard and a lot of us. No, couldn't have been Bob Eubanks. He's great.
Good to hear. We're going to talk about Match Game because you were on the show. I would call you a semi-regular. You were on the show all the time. But Gene Rayburn wasn't just an acquaintance. You guys were pretty good friends.
Well, we became good friends. I didn't know Gene until I started doing Match Game, but I don't know how. We just kind of gravitated towards each other, and we would talk about, he'd ask me questions about Nashville and all these things. And one year he was back on the East Coast, I think at Christmas time, and he was getting ready to go back to California to do some shows. I said, well, you can take the southern route and come through Nashville. And he said, well, I may just do that. I've never been there. And so he and Helen decided, well, we're just going to go that way. We're going to go to California through Nashville. They came here and spent a couple of days, and we had the best time. I took him out to a couple of restaurants and things, and we just hung out and had a good time. And we did develop a friendship, and I was very proud of that. And very with me away from the television set and away from working. And I was also able to become good friends with Richard Dawson through Match Game, and used to send Richard a country ham every Christmas. He's the guy from England. He didn't know what a country ham was. He didn't know how to cook it or slice it or make red eye gravy or anything. But I think Richard was kind of fascinated by my lifestyle too. So those were great days. People ask me all the time, if I really enjoyed Match Game and all those people and what they were like. And they were just as crazy off the set as they were on the set. Brett Summers and Charles Nelson Riley. And it was so much fun to be a part of that world.
And Match Game taped 6 shows in a day because you do, the daytime one, you do Match Game PM. Is there truth to the fact that you do the first 3 shows and go to lunch, and some people would have a little tipple and then come back to set?
I don't know. Gee, I never saw anything like that. You know what we had to do, though? I'll tell you funny. We would do like 3 shows, and we always taped on a Sunday. They always taped on a Sunday afternoon, and we would do the first 3 shows, and they would be the daytime shows, and then we would have to change clothes. I mean, we changed for every show anyway, but we would have to go into more of a dress up mode for the night show. They would ask the guys to wear like a sport coat and a tie, and dress up for the nighttime show. And then after that was done, we'd go back and do the daytime shows and just be ourselves.
When you heard for the first time Johnny Olson, that iconic voice, Match Game, The Price is Right. I mean, it's countless different shows. When you heard him for the first time say,
"Get ready to match the stars," Bill Anderson.
Because you were the first guy, you were always top left. How did that make you feel?
Yeah, pretty humble, I tell you. Yeah, that great voice. And I didn't get to know Johnny real well, but I was around him, and he was a nice man. And no ego or anything. I mean, come on down, but he was great. And I got to work with another guy out there that was not as well known as Johnny, but a guy named Gene Wood, who was just, he was so great at doing audience warm-ups and doing those guys. That's a very special kind of a thing that those people do that I don't know that they get the credit for how hard they work and all that they bring to those shows.
And you worked with Gene Wood. I mean, The Better Sex. He did Family Feud when you were a guest on Family Feud. He did Tattletales, Password Plus. The list goes on and on. Yeah.
And Gene came to Nashville a few times. I think he was, at one time, they were going to try to do something with him at the Nashville Network. I don't think it ever came to fruition, but Gene was so much fun. He had some of the funniest lines when he would go out and warm up the audience, before the show. And that's a tough thing to do, because you got people that, they've come in off the street and they don't really know everything that's going on. And Gene would get the audience relaxed, and he was wonderful. He had some funny routines that he would pull on people, just to get the audience loosened up. He was great.
And so are you. And so are you, Bill. The Better Sex. You mentioned The Better Sex earlier. You co-hosted this show on ABC with Sarah Purcell. Talk about the first time you're on set as a game show host.
Well, I had to audition. I had to go to California several different times and try out. Because, here was a hillbilly singer that somebody said, well, I think he'd make a good game show host. And they brought me out there time and again, and they would match me up. Mark Goodson wanted to do something that had never been done on television before in a game show, and that was have a male and a female co-host. So they would bring me out, and they'd match me up with various females and see how the synergy went between us. And then they'd bring those same women back, and they'd bring in 3 or 4 different guys, to host. And so I never knew until right up at the very end whether I was actually going to get the show or not. I auditioned with Sarah. I auditioned with Patty Duke. I auditioned with Joanna Barnes, people that just from all different, walks of life and areas of show business. And I don't know, there just seemed to kind of be something between Sarah and Regis Philbin was very much in the running, because Sarah and Regis were hosting a morning show in LA at that time together, and they had a good chemistry on the air. And I don't think Regis ever quite forgave me for taking Sarah away and taking her on network television and working with her on The Better Sex. But it was a great relationship. Sarah became a dear friend, and I really enjoyed working with her. And of course, she went on to bigger and better things on Real People and other shows she did after that.
Forgive me, folks at home, because like I said at the top of the show, I've interviewed Bill several times. And one time in an interview we did on Nashville Insider, you showed me a mug from The Better Sex. Do you still have that?
Well, it's not actually a mug. Sarah had some glasses made, and she had the date engraved. I don't know if you can read that or not, but she had it engraved on there that says July 18th, 1977. And that was the day that The Better Sex went on the air on ABC. She didn't put The Better Sex or anything on there. She just put the date. And I've been so thankful over the years, because people have said to me, well, when was that show? Let me go check my china cabinet. Oh, yeah, July 18th, 1977. Let me show you something else. Now, you don't know I'm going to do this, but yesterday, knowing that I was going to be on with you today, I thought, somewhere around the house, I think I have something that Adam has probably never seen. And let me show you what I found.
I'm getting very excited. Whoa!
They made up a few of these. I don't know what they did with them, but that's the logo.
How is that in such mint condition?
Well, it needs ironing, but I just kept it. I got one shirt, and I said, I'm going to take care of that, and I'm going to keep it. And I found it. I wasn't even sure where it was, and I went looking through a closet and found it yesterday.
That is so cool. I wonder, hypothetically, if you walked out the next time you host at the Grand Ole Opry and you walk out wearing that shirt, I wonder what people would think.
They would think I was a pervert. You tell somebody you hosted a show called The Better Sex, and they look at you kind of funny anyway.
Bill, before you ever hosted a game show, you were on a game show as a contestant.
Now let's meet our next team of challengers. What is your name, please?
My name is Bill Anderson.
My name is Bill Anderson.
My name is Bill Anderson.
Talk about this time on To Tell the Truth.
Early 60s. I was not well known as an artist at that time, obviously, as you'll see if you watch this clip. But I had won some songwriting awards. And one night I'm sitting at home and I get a call from a man at Goodson Todman Productions in New York. And he had read about me winning a bunch of songwriting awards. And it kind of fascinated him. And he said, would you like to come to New York and be on an episode of To Tell the Truth? And I thought, well, golly, why not? They'd pay my expenses and whatever. So I went to New York, and I was the one that they, will the real Bill Anderson stand up? And they told me to bring one of my stage suits. They knew that in addition to being a writer, I was a performer. So I brought a rhinestone suit or two up there with me, and they had me wear it on the show. And the one that I didn't wear, they put on the guy from Birmingham. And we all looked like we could have been country singers, And it was so funny because 2 out of the 4 panelists did not guess me. The funny thing was, I think it was Kitty Carlisle said to me, she said,
Number 3, I don't wish to be personal, but why are you wearing this costume?
And of course, we're sworn to tell the truth. And the guy had told me, he said, bring that with you. And so I just looked at her and I said, ma'am, it's the only thing I had.
Well, it's all I had.
And I was telling the truth, but everybody cracked up. Like I was saying, I didn't have any other clothes, but it was, I had other clothes, but that's what they told me to wear.
Didn't game shows back then they weren't necessarily in studios, they were in theaters. Wasn't To Tell the Truth kind of in a big theater?
It was in a theater in New York. Yeah, I guess probably be a theater where they had done Broadway shows, maybe still did Broadway shows and all. But I had to be up there for like 3 or 4 days because they did like rehearsals. This was the nighttime prime time, to tell the truth, show. And I was in New York for about 4 days prior to taping it.
We talked about Gene Rayburn. We talked about Mark Goodson. I kind of want to go through some of the other names of hosts that you interacted with over the years. And first off, Burke Convey. You were on Tattletales quite a few times. Burke just seemed like a cool guy. What was Burke Convey like?
He was, Burke was a singer, not a country singer, but he was kind of a pop singer and a nice guy, very much like he came off on TV. He was fun and upbeat, and I always enjoyed being around him. And I thought he did a great job hosting Tattletales. And sometimes that was about like trying to lasso cats, better. The Tattletales could go off in all kinds of directions, with the couples, the men and women and all. I thought Burke did a great job. I was very sad when I learned that he had some health issues and passed away far too early.
And another one gone too soon, Alan Ludden. You were a fantastic Password player, probably still are. Talk about the experience being on Password with such a legend.
Oh, golly, yeah. Alan Ludden and Password, that was just, ham and eggs or whatever, just so closely associated. I really enjoyed Al. He was a consummate professional. He took what he did very seriously, like it kind of came across on TV. But he was kind of fun underneath. What was fun, what I really enjoyed, was being on Password one time with Betty White. And of course, Alan and Betty White, were man and wife, and the little innuendos, the little digs between them, and just the fun. I enjoyed Alan. And speaking of that, let me show you what they gave me. And I am extremely proud of this. And I don't know if I can get it in the picture here. Let me back up a little bit. You can see it's mine. It's got Bill written on there. This is my Password Plus jacket that I'm so, and it's not just one jacket, it's two. It's reversible. I'm proud of that. And it's not the kind of thing you go wear down the street, but it's awful nice to have. And I got a lot of great memories of being on Password. They still air those shows a lot on Buzzer. I've seen some of them, in recent years, and it was always fun. I was able to win a lot of money for some of my partners on there. It was a fun show to do. Probably my favorite of the shows. I think I felt more comfortable on Password than I did on any of the other shows.
And one of the things, Bill, that you mentioned, which I think is so cool that you mentioned this, was why you are on any game show as a celebrity panelist. It's to win money for people that really need it. What is that feeling when you're playing the bonus round on Password Plus, Alphabetics, and all of a sudden you just won $5,000 for someone, and it's life-changing?
Yeah, and when you don't win, that's when the guilt comes in. That's when you think, oh, Lord, I have let this person down. It hurt worse not to win the money than it felt good when I did win the money for them.
But most of the time you won the money. And more contestants won money. This is what you call a segue in this business, Bill. More contestants won money on Fandango, 1983. Both of your lives coming together for the first time. Country music and game show on TNN, the Nashville network. How did this all come about?
Well, when I came back to Nashville, it was in the early 80s. And there was this rumor going around that the people that owned the Grand Ole Opry were going to start a television network called the Nashville Network. And the rumor was that among all the other things they wanted to do a country music game show, a trivia show based on country music. And at that time, I was the only person in Nashville, I guess, that had ever really hosted, a major game show on a network. So they came to me and said, asked me if I'd like to audition as the host of this game show that was going to be called Fandango. And I said, gosh, yeah, because like you say, that's kind of the coming together of both sides of Bill Anderson, the game show and the music. And that show ran for 6 years. And you say win money. We didn't have money to give away. This was a low budget game show on cable television, and we other people were giving away cruises and automobiles and boats and things, and we were giving away mops and lamps and
useful items.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Justin.
Justin who?
Just in time for the surprise prize to be thrown in here on this show, Bill. A Coleman's most popular two-burner stove, lightweight, rugged, easy to ignite and adjust. Super Seal food containers.
New active length lead press-on nails.
Dakota phone 3530, electronic bulletin board, answering device.
Windex. But it was fun.
One thing that I love about you, Bill, is even through a pandemic, you have helped to keep the Grand Ole Opry alive, by being there and hosting without an audience. And now, of course, with a few people in the audience. What is it like to say that you are part of history, that you are able to host on the Grand Ole Opry stage, perform on the Grand Ole Opry stage, even during this time?
I did the first Opry show back in March of 2020 without an audience, the very first night that we did it without an audience. And people have asked me, said, what did it feel like? And I said, well, to me, it wasn't all that unusual. I'm used to playing to empty auditoriums. I've been playing empty auditoriums for 50 years. No, I'm only kidding. It was weird to stand up there on that hallowed stage and look out there at 4,400 empty seats in the Grand Ole Opry House. But, the old show has to go on type thing, must go on. And so we did it. It was a whole lot better when we were able to come back in the fall and do shows even to a limited audience and the audiences, of course, with the masks on and everything. It's been a tough time. It's been a very trying time for show business. The live concert business was kind of the first thing to go by the way, and it's been tough, and it's been really tough on entertainers and musicians and crews and people that that work in the live entertainment business. And I'm proud of the Opry because the Opry's been able to continue, not in full form or anything, but in a limited way. And so we can still say that that circle is unbroken. The Opry's been on every Saturday night since 1925, and there's not another show in the world that can say that.
And now, this year, you've been a Grand Ole Opry member for 60 years. That's incredible. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's I joined in 1961. In July of 2021, we're going to kind of commemorate the occasion. Dan Rogers, who is the manager at the Opry now, told me that he did some research about 60th anniversaries, and he said the gift that you give on a 60th anniversary is a diamond. I said, good, give me the diamond at Yankee Stadium. I'll take that one. But it's a great honor to have been at the Opera. They've put up with me for 60 years, and they're the ones that should get the award.
But you're getting it, and you deserve it. And again, we talked about new music at the beginning of our show. It's not just one new song. You've got this whole Reimagined, the Hits Reimagined album that came out during this very difficult time. How did that come about, and how important was it for you to stay busy in 2020 and now in 2021?
I had these songs already recorded, the Hits Reimagined. I had gone in and I was doing an audio book is the way it all started. I did an autobiography in 2016 and read the audio book that went along with it. And in doing the audio book, the engineer said, we're talking about all these different songs. And he said, he was a guitar player, and he said, why don't I play some little guitar licks while you're talking about these songs? So I'd be talking about writing Whiskey Lullaby, and he'd take his guitar and he'd be playing some little background signature licks from that song and other songs. And when we kind of did that through the audio book, and I said, we ought to just record a whole album of instrumentals. These sound so good, just being played so simple. So we took about 10 of my songs and went in and did the instrumental album. And I told him when we were doing it, I said, record these instrumentals, if you would, in the same key that I would sing these songs in, because we may come back someday and want to put my vocals on. So that's exactly what happened. We came back and put the vocals on, and we had these in the can. And when the pandemic hit and we couldn't do any music and all, I said, heck, we ought to just, put these out. So we put out 10 vocals and 10 instrumentals, which is very unusual. There haven't been any country instrumentals to amount to much in years. And so we were able to put out the instrumentals and the vocals. And like the title says, it's the Hits Reimagined. They've never been done quite like this. And the reaction's been very favorable.
And that album, The Hits Reimagined, is available wherever you buy your favorite music. Gotta promote, buy the album. Bill Anderson, you're fantastic. Bill Anderson, the legendary Bill Anderson, has been our guest today on Hosts at Home. We have more great fun on our next show. Richard Malmus, who's on the show next week?
Next time on Hosts at Home, a full circle moment for Adam. Our host was a contestant on his game show in 2006. Now, he's interviewing the host about his new Chain Reaction reboot. Dylan Lane is on the show. Back over to you, Adam.
This has been such a great show. Always a pleasure to chat with Bill Anderson. My name is Adam Wurtzel. We'll see you next time. Bill Anderson, close us out.
Thanks, Adam. I've had fun being with you. Take care. We'll see you next time.